Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much, Senior Lieutenant Unger, Chief Bond, Chief Tan, Chief Miller, all uniform personnel, all the everybody's come here to support today, as well as all the elected officials. I wasn't allowed to be here today. The governor told me I had to be down in Dover for his budget address, but I told him I had to at least come here for the start to just say thank you. For those of you that were at my budget address the other night, I started just by talking about the service of the women and men who are standing before us today. I was taught as a kid that when a building's on fire, when someone pulls a knife, pulls a gun, or something bad's happening, I turn and run away, right? That's the human instinct. You turn and run away. The people we see around us, they run towards the harm. And because of that, we're all safer. One thing, I'm new in this job, and one thing I've learned pretty quick is if we have 500-600 people, paramedics, police officers, firefighters out there each and every day trying to serve the public. If every single one of them, except one, if every single one of them is doing 100% exactly what they should be doing, if they're out there protecting our safety, often not just protecting our safety, but proactively creating safe and peaceful environments. If they're doing that, you're never going to hear about it. But if you get one who 99% of the time is doing the right thing, all you're going to read and hear about is that 1%, that one person, that 1%. So today's an opportunity for us in some small way to recognize a small number of people who represent each and every uniformed person in this room and across this county. So I'm here just to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming today and for serving every single day. It makes all of us safer here in the county, throughout the state, and throughout the country. Thank you.
For over 20 years, Concerns of Police Survivors Incorporated has provided service to America's law enforcement survivors. COPS provides resources to assist in the rebuilding of the lives of surviving families of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty as determined by federal criteria. Furthermore, COPS provides training to law enforcement agencies on survivor victimization issues and educates the public of the need to support law enforcement profession and its survivors. For example, Concerns of Police Survivors held a rally Saturday on January 9th of 2016 at 11 o'clock at the Law Enforcement Memorial in Dover. They held the rally as a public show of support for law enforcement. We would like to take time today to recognize the Delaware COPS chapter for all they have done through the years and continue to do to help surviving families and coworkers cope with the tragic loss of a loved one. Words cannot fully express the gratitude we have for each of you. Some of the events each year that the Delaware COPS chapter is involved with include local state memorials, National Police Week, the Lieutenant Joe Zerba raffle, the Blue Light Vigil, COPS annual law enforcement picnic, holiday dinners, blue ribbon campaign, and the COPS run and walk. Delaware COPS does all of this and more. So as a token of our appreciation, we would like to present each of them with a certificate of appreciation and a staff challenge coin, along with our heartfelt gratitude. Beginning in August of 2015 and continuing through July of 2016, detectives from Newcastle County, as well as numerous other police agencies, investigated a rash of residential burglaries, all sharing a similar modus operandi. Through the investigation, a sophisticated criminal organization was linked and subsequently charged with these burglaries. The total loss of the stolen property is estimated to be in the millions of dollars. Detective Dave DiNardo, along with Sergeant Stephen Fink of the Abington Police Department, spearheaded a task force involving agencies from the greater Philadelphia area and New Jersey. Through the investigation, they were able to locate stolen property at a jewelry store on Jewelers Row in Philadelphia, and the task force was able to determine that the jeweler was directly involved in the overall criminal organization. Search warrants were executed, and proceeds related to multiple burglaries in Pennsylvania and Delaware were recovered at 2 residences belonging to one of the suspects. Detective DiNardo personally drafted and executed in excess of 25 search warrants. As a result of Sergeant Fink and Detective DiNardo's tireless efforts, over 15 high-dollar burglaries were able to be cleared in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, and they successfully thwarted one of the most sophisticated burglary organizations in the history of the Newcastle County Police. For their hard work and teamwork, Sergeant Fink and Detective DiNardo are awarded commendations of merit. Officer First Class Devin Williams. On July 31st, 2016, it was reported that an 86-year-old individual with dementia was missing and last seen in his bedroom wearing only his pajamas. After obtaining a recently worn piece of clothing, Officer Williams used that article of clothing to help Canine Gucci obtain an odor of the missing individual. Canine Gucci then began tracking from the driveway and went down the front yards of a few houses until the man was found lying face down on the ground behind a vehicle. The man was safely returned to his residence. Officer Williams and Canine Gucci's actions quickly recovered an elderly individual with dementia during the summer months where dehydration can quickly and easily set in. For his actions, Officer First Class Williams is awarded a certificate of appreciation. Officer First Class Brian Mitchell, who is currently in an undercover capacity and will not respond to the front of the room. During the second half of 2016, Officer First Class Mitchell was assigned to the mobile enforcement team and quickly assumed a leadership role on the team. In approximately 30 days' time, he seized 568 grams of marijuana, 20 grams of crack cocaine, and 2.625 grams of heroin, 1 firearm, and $3,903 in United States currency. Officer Mitchell executed 2 search warrants for residences, 1 body of search warrant, a search warrant for a hotel room, multiple pen registry warrants, and multiple cell phone search warrants during 3 investigations. Over the course of these 3 investigations, he continued to ensure that he and his team members completed their day-to-day commitments to the Met mission. It should also be noted that all 3 of these investigations directly impacted TAP's areas. For his hard work, Officer Mitchell is awarded a commendation of merit, and accepting that award is Captain Robert McLucas. Officer First Class Alexis Anon. On November 8th, 2016, Officer First Class Anon responded to a residence for a report of a shooting. As other officers attended to the victim, she questioned two teens who were present at the scene. She gathered information from the subjects, who both initially denied that they had any information about the shooting. Officer First Class Anon continued to talk to the subjects to encourage them to provide information. One of the subjects ultimately admitted that he shot the victim. Now he's a suspect. For her ability to remain calm in a chaotic environment, Officer First Class Anon is awarded a certificate of appreciation. I'd ask that Ms. Betty Olmsted come up to the front here with me. Every year, the Wilmington Kiwanis Club acknowledges a Newcastle County police officer for an outstanding accomplishment that occurs within each service quarter. This afternoon, I would like to call Ms. Betty Olmsted, president of the Wilmington Kiwanis Club, to the podium to present the Kiwanis Awards for the second two quarters of 2016, as well as the annual Kiwanis Award for 2016. The recipient of the Kiwanis Award for the third quarter of 2016 will be presented to Detective David DiNardo.
The Wilmington Kiwanis Club presents to OFC Officer First Class David DiNardo, the police officer of the third quarter for 2016, for outstanding service to the citizens of Newcastle County, Delaware. Thank you for your service.
The recipient of the Kiwanis Award for the fourth quarter of 2016 will be presented to Officer First Class Brian Mitchell. It's an imposter.
We don't know you.
This is his boss, but he shall remain nameless here as well, too. So you can
Thank you.
go ahead.
The Wilmington Kiwanis Club presents to Officer First Class Brian Mitchell, the police officer of the fourth quarter 2016, for outstanding service to the citizens of Newcastle County, Delaware. And I understand you're not Officer Mitchell, but you'll give it to him. Thank you so much.
And the recipient for the annual Kiwanis Award for 2016 will be presented to Officer First Class Detective David DiNardo.
The Wilmington Kiwanis Club presents to Officer First Class Detective David DiNardo, the Police Officer of the Year for 2016, and commend you on your outstanding services to the citizens of Newcastle County, Delaware. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mrs. Olmsted. This concludes the police portion of the award ceremony.
Sergeant Abigail Haas, Corporal Thomas Murphy, and Paramedic First Class Jack Warwick, please come up front. On September 27, 2016, at 1700 hours, Medic 6C and Medic 9C were dispatched along with the fire department units to a serious motor vehicle collision with multiple patients and two subjects trapped. Paramedic personnel from Medic 6C were the first to arrive on scene and found a head-on collision with both drivers trapped and a 5-year-old critically injured patient inside one of the vehicles. Sergeant Haas triaged the 3 patients and noted them all to be priority 1, the most serious type of patients. However, the pediatric patient required immediate assistance with ventilations to breathe by bag valve mask. After assuring that all 3 patients had at least one BLS provider, basic life provider, attending to them, one critical patient, the pediatric patient, had stopped breathing. Newcastle County paramedics were assisted by Delaware State Police Trooper 4, Medic Sebastianelli, en route to DuPont Children's Hospital with a critically injured child suffering from a cervical fracture, a cranial bleed, multiple soft tissue injuries. Sergeant Haas remained on the scene. While upon the arrival of Lieutenant Nichols, he was briefed on the situation, and the plan was formed to best utilize the limited amount of paramedic level resources at the scene. Medic 9C would be assigned to the 73-year-old male driver in critical conditions with chest and abdominal trauma. Lieutenant Nichols and Sergeant Haas would take over the care of the 27-year-old male driver who remained trapped and was critical with lower extremity injuries and uncontrolled bleeding. Due to the length of the extrication, Lieutenant Nichols requested the return of Delaware State Police Trooper 2 to the scene to facilitate the return of the Newcastle County paramedic on the aircraft, as well as the aircraft for utilization. Once the 3rd patient was extricated, he was found to have severe lacerations, requiring the use of a tourniquet and direct pressure to control hemorrhage to prevent any further blood loss. The patient was transported to the trauma center in Delaware State Police Trooper 4 as a trauma alert to Christiana Emergency Room for the teamwork displayed and demonstrated by effectively managing a complex incident with 3 critically injured patients. These Newcastle County paramedics are awarded the unit letter of commendation. Would Trooper Medic Ted Stippa, Senior Corporal Robert Taylor, Corporal Catherine Watts, Corporal David McKinney, Corporal Ashley Steele, Paramedic First Class Lisa Locke, and Paramedic First Class Scott Sizer, please come to the front. Just to note, there are a number of these people on shift today that may not be immediately present. On November 13, 2016, at 2012 hours, fire department personnel and county paramedics with a supervisor were dispatched to Pulaski Highway at Buckley Boulevard for a motor vehicle collision with reported multiple patients. First responding personnel found a 2-vehicle accident with severe front-end damage to the striking vehicle. A total of 6 patients were injured, 4 of which were critical in nature. 2 of the critical patients were ejected from their vehicle, and 1 was still trapped in the driver's seat. 2 additional paramedics were called for, and the shift lieutenant and the Delaware State Police Trooper 4 were added to the response. Corporal Watts and PFC Locke were the first to arrive on Medic 2A and had a difficult task of triaging all the patients, some of which had wandered away from the center of the scene. Following the triage, they decided to take the critical patient that was ejected and begin treatment, leaving the others for responding paramedic personnel. Paramedic personnel from Medic 3A, along with Corporal McKinney and Corporal Steele, arrived on scene and began the treatment of the trapped driver, who was heavily entrapped in the vehicle, the mangled vehicle, suffering from multiple long bone fractures, and the patient was flown along with Corporal McKinney aboard Trooper 4 as a trauma code. Senior Corporal Robert Taylor and PFC Sizer performed a secondary assessment of the scene while discovering and beginning treatment on a 4th critical patient. This scene was very complicated, and given the fact that there were 2 ejected patients, multiple fire and EMS personnel on scene, vehicles separated, creating a large area of operation, an extrication process taking quite a while with multiple patients, and advanced life support needed. Due to the coordinated efforts of their true teamwork of all Newcastle County paramedics, they are awarded the unit letter of commendation. reported cardiac arrest of a pediatric patient at Pulaski Highway and Salem Church Road. First arriving units found a total of 7 patients, 2 critically injured children, and requested additional resources. Medic 6C and Corporal Sullivan, along with paramedic Ross, arrived at the scene and immediately began to triage patients. Both medics split resources to care for the injured children. Corporal Sullivan treated a 9-year-old female suffering from a head injury who remained unresponsive and deteriorated during the flight to DuPont Children's Hospital. Due to the efficient communication of all personnel on scene and the ability to triage the most critically injured patients, the scene was mitigated and all 7 patients were transported from the scene to the appropriate facilities in a very expeditious manner. For their actions, they are awarded the Unit Letter of Commendation. Sergeant Isaac Hankins, Sergeant Abigail Haas, Paramedic Scott Keir, Paramedic Mary Kate Sellner, Paramedic Mark Plumley. On Tuesday, November 29, 2016, the Etna Hose, Hook, and Ladder Company of Newark and Newcastle County paramedics responded to the 700 block of Paper Mill Road in Newark for a motor vehicle collision. The collision was with a 2-door sedan that had struck a mid-sized bus traveling at a high rate of speed. The collision caused a major intrusion into the driver's side of the passenger vehicle, significantly pinning the driver's leg and causing a head injury that affected the patient's level of consciousness. Fire department units then arrived and began the process of extricating the patient. During the 16-minute extrication of the patient, paramedic personnel could only access the upper torso of the patient. Even with limited access, the paramedic personnel obtained a full set of vital signs, stabilized the patient's cervical spine, and applied oxygen. Once the door was removed from the vehicle and the dash was pushed back, they could see the true severity of the patient's injuries to the leg. Due to uncontrolled arterial bleeding from the patient's leg, personnel quickly removed the patient from the mangled wreckage. Sergeant Haas, Sergeant Hankins, Paramedic Plumley, PFC Keir, and Paramedic Sellner worked as a team to aggressively apply the tourniquet to her left leg. The tourniquet did slow the bleeding. Once the patient was moved to the ambulance, however, they applied direct pressure, quick clot, and an Israeli bandage, which is a elastic compression bandage, to the patient's soft tissue injury on her left leg in an attempt to control the hemorrhage. Because of all the paramedic personnel exemplary teamwork on this incident, the patient's horrific leg injury was stabilized, her uncontrolled hemorrhage was stopped, and her vital signs improved. For their actions, they are being awarded the Unit Letter of Commendation. On October 12, 2016, a call was received by Newcastle County Communications Center for a suicide in progress with a firearm. The Newcastle County police officers were the first to arrive on scene and found a male subject laying on the ground outside of the residence. The scene was a difficult one, as many bystanders were around the patient, and making an assessment became difficult. The patient was unresponsive, not breathing, and did not have a pulse, and was noted to have a significant amount of blood around him. Immediately recognizing the severity of the patient's condition, Officer First Class Kyle Webb and Officer First Class Alex Lowe initiated CPR with ventilations and chest compressions. Noting that the uncontrolled hemorrhage from the patient's upper leg, Master Corporal Stephanie Kirkes obtained her departmentally issued tourniquet and applied it to the patient's leg, which resulted in controlling the bleeding and stopping the patient from losing additional blood volume. The Newcastle County paramedic and fire department BLS personnel arrived within 5 minutes after the officers had initiated their life-saving efforts. EMS personnel confirmed that the patient was in cardiac arrest and initiated critical resuscitation measures. 3 minutes after the EMS arrived on scene, the patient regained pulses, began breathing on his own, and his neurological status improved. Paramedic personnel had difficulty in treating the patient's post-arrest shock as his blood pressure remained critically low. With only 7 minutes transport, the paramedic personnel initiated 2 intravenous lines, began fluid resuscitation, initiated a trauma code for the receiving trauma facility while consulting with medical control, continuously monitoring the patient's blood pressure and reapplying the tourniquet with direct pressure and a hemostatic clotting agent to control the bleeding. And what had happened is that occurred as the bleeding and the increased again, even with the tourniquet in place. So as cardiac arrests from trauma incidents survive at a less than 1% rate, this incident shows how interagency coordination is crucial to successful outcomes. Because of the initial actions of the first arriving Newcastle County police officers, the fire department, BLS, and aggressive advanced life support by Newcastle County paramedics, they are being awarded the Distinguished Unit Citation. Mr. Eladio de Shields, Delaware State Police Corporal Sean Rodriguez, and Trooper First Class Randall Brentica. On August 19, 2016, Christiana Fire Company, along with Newcastle County paramedics, were dispatched to a motor vehicle collision with entrapment at the intersection of South College Avenue and Pulaski Highway. The incident involved a tractor trailer versus a pickup truck on fire with a small child trapped inside. Troopers Rodriguez and Abrenica were leaving Troop 2 nearby and immediately responded to the incident. Mr. DeShields came upon the incident and ran to assist. As the fire grew and began to consume the vehicle, the child remained trapped inside the car. The troopers, with the assistance of Mr. DeShields, continued to work to free the child despite the growing fire and concerns for their own safety. Just prior to the vehicle being completely consumed by fire, these 3 men were able to free the child and pull him to safety. Paramedic Station 6 is less than a half a mile from this incident, and even though they arrived just minutes later after being dispatched, paramedic personnel noted that the pickup truck where the child was trapped was completely consumed by fire, and they expected to find something grave. If not for the heroic actions of these troopers Rodriguez and Abrenica and Mr. DeShields, the child would have certainly perished in the fire. By disregarding their own safety and putting others' lives in front of their own, these 3 responders to this incident should be commended. Mr. DeShields will be awarded the Citizens Life Saving Award, and the troopers will be awarded the Letter of Commendation. Acting Lieutenant Sergeant Abigail Haas, Senior Corporal Tom Murphy, PFC Laura Hill, Paramedic First Class Brian Bradford, Paramedic First Class Jessica Duncan, Paramedic First Class Scott Keir, Paramedic First Class Yvonne Russell, Paramedic First Class Matthew Heiger, Paramedic First Class Jessica Duncan, and Paramedic Mary Kate Selner. On August 25th, 2016, at 11:18 hours, the fire department units were dispatched to a commercial structure at the IKO manufacturing plant on Hay Road in North Wilmington. The incident involved machinery on a conveyor belt shaft that quickly grew to 2 alarms. In addition to be confronted with the fire in the confined area of the facility, the temperatures that day were in the high 80s with 100% humidity. Early into the incident, a firefighter collapsed on the catwalk in the area of the facility that was difficult to reach and was unresponsive. Paramedic David Frank scaled a ladder to access the patient on a narrow catwalk high above the facility's floor. Only one paramedic was able to enter this area due to the limited space, and the firefighters needing to access that area for the rescue also had limited space. Upon paramedic Frank's arrival to the catwalk, the firefighter was unresponsive, had shallow respirations, had no palpable pulses, and the firefighter was critical. Paramedic Frank inserted a basic airway adjunct and began positive pressure ventilations to help him breathe. He carefully monitored all his vital signs while operating in the small area of the catwalk high above. In addition to the medical interventions, Paramedic Frank assisted the fire department with getting the patient onto a Stokes basket for removal from the area down to the ground level. Once on the ground, Paramedic Frank, assisted by Paramedic First Class Laura Hill, transported the patient and the firefighter to Christiana Emergency Room in critical condition. The incident lasted 5 hours as the crews had difficulty accessing and extinguishing the fire due to its location and high heat conditions. In total, 3 firefighters were transported by paramedic personnel, along with 39 other firefighters who entered the rehabilitation area at the scene throughout the incident. EMS personnel formulated a plan with incident commanders to incorporate the time parameters for entry into destruction and medical evaluation upon their exit. With this plan in place, potential additional firefighter injuries was greatly diminished. 4 paramedic units, 2 supervisors, an assistant chief, and operations support personnel participated in the EMS operation throughout this incident. Due to the number of patients assessed in this high heat condition and the amount of teamwork to perform the EMS operation, this group is being given the unit letter of commendation, and for paramedic Frank's role in his actions to save the trapped firefighter on an elevated, dangerous area is being given the commendation of bravery. Just before I begin our final award, which is a special citation, I just want to recognize some people that we call them family, whether they're in uniform or not, that are here in the room. I know we recognize Chief Mike Donahue. There's several members of the Wilmington Fire Department on hand that are family to us, as well as our people that we work alongside. Again, Fran Leach is here. AKA me mom, to Brandon to Brandon and Abby and Meg, and of course their mother, Lieutenant Kelly Zula, in the back of the room as well. The following please come up front. Assistant Chief Mark Logeman, Lieutenant Kelly Zula, Paramedic Sergeant Peter Small, Paramedic Senior Corporal William O'Leary, Paramedic Senior Corporal Christopher Reed, Paramedic Corporal Stacy LeComte, Paramedic First Class Brian Bradford, Paramedic First Class Leah Honicki, Paramedic First Class Michael Schusrich, Paramedic First Class Scott Sizer, Paramedic Matthew Patterson, Paramedic David Frank. On the morning of September 24, 2016, at 03:02 hours, Medic 1 was dispatched to provide medical support to a reported working fire at a residential structure located at 1927 Lakeview Road in Wilmington. Preliminary reports reported that the first arriving fire department apparatus indicated there was heavy fire showing from the rear of the structure. The incident would quickly deteriorate. Within 6 minutes of the arrival of the first fire apparatus, a mayday was declared, with the report of multiple firefighters trapped on the first floor of the structure following the collapse of one of the floors. One firefighter was removed from the residence with extensive burns. A short time later, another firefighter who had been working in the rescue effort presented to emergency medical services personnel with burns to his hand and arm. The Wilmington Fire Department reported that additional fires had remained trapped in the structure following another collapse, prompting the request for additional EMS units and personnel to the scene. As the rescue effort continued, 6 occupants of the residence were discovered at another location down the street and were found to have possible inhalation injuries and shortness of breath from smoke inhalation. Within minutes, another firefighter was removed from the structure and was in cardiac arrest. 3 paramedics, comprised of a shift lieutenant, a paramedic sergeant, and a single paramedic, immediately began to provide basic and advanced life support treatment to the firefighter. A short time later, another firefighter was removed from the structure with critical injuries. The firefighter was treated by county paramedics and transferred to the state police helicopter for transport to the hospital. At 04:30, the last firefighter was located in the bottom floor of this structure. Unfortunately, he was pronounced at the scene before being transported to Christiana Hospital. The emergency medical services personnel operating at the scene treated and transported 11 patients, including 4 critically injured firefighters. 5 Newcastle County paramedic units and 3 supervisory personnel and a member of senior staff coordinated their efforts to quickly adjust to changing conditions in order to provide the highest level of care to each of these patients. Tragically, 3 Wilmington firefighters lost their lives that day in the line of duty. The response by the on-scene personnel to critically and potentially overwhelming incident demonstrated their dedication to duty and their professionalism, which upheld the finest traditions of Newcastle County Emergency Medical Services. However, the story of the on-scene actions is only part of the story from that morning. Compassion and empathy are the hallmarks of a great caregiver. Upon learning of the tragic events that September morning, there were several personnel from the Emergency Medical Services Division that responded directly to Christiana Hospital to provide comfort and support of their fellow employees and their colleagues from Wilmington Fire Department and their families. They assembled on their own, providing a personal level of support that only comes from the heart as a member of a public safety family. Many refused to leave the hospital until everyone, including the fallen fighters, had left the premises. The compassion and empathy of those did not go unrecognized by their colleagues, regardless of the agency or organization. The executive staff of the EMS division would also like to take a moment to publicly express our appreciation to the paramedics who asked to work in the coming days, including the members of the Delaware State Police Aviation Section, the Kent County Department of Public Safety, Sussex County EMS, along with units from Cecil County, Maryland EMS, and the Longwood Fire Company of Pennsylvania, to permit others to attend the memorial and funeral services of the fallen. The professionalism of these paramedics that responded to that fire on September 24, 2016, despite the overwhelming and rapidly changing circumstances, along with the personnel that provided support in the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, has warranted an authorization to issue a special citation by the Chief of Emergency Medical Services. The special citation for your actions features a black background with fire service insignia representing the supreme sacrifice made by the members of the Wilmington Fire Department that morning. The citation also includes 2016-16943, which is the Wilmington Fire Department alarm number for the incident at 1927 Lakeview. Again, we commend you for your dedication and your duty and your professionalism in this unprecedented incident, which upheld the finest traditions of our service.
I'm Public Safety Operator 2nd, Timothy Wrightson. I'm with the Emergency Communications Department, and together we're the voice of 911. When the following people come forward as your name is called. Miss Gisela Ortiz. Telecommunicator 1, Fire and Medical, Lisa McNulty. On August 7th, 2016, 9-year-old Gisela Ortiz called 911 because her father, Oscar, was possibly suffering from a seizure. He became unconscious while stopped at a traffic light. Then Public Safety Operator 2, Lisa McNulty, answered Gisela's frantic call for help. It was a tense few moments. Understandably, Gisela was unable to provide her and her father's location. Gisela's father, Oscar, was continuing to experience a seizure in their vehicle. A Good Samaritan had intervened and was able to provide Public Safety Operator 2, Lisa McNulty, their location. She was able to continue within the emergency medical dispatch protocol, making sure that medical assistance was dispatched and also providing calm reassurance to Gisela. Thanks to Gisela's quick thinking to call 911, she was able to save her father's life, earning her the Distinguished Lifesaver Award. Telecommunicator 1, Fire and Medical, Lisa McNulty is awarded the Lifesaver Award for her actions. And the Newcastle County 911 Center was fortunate to have available the services of Information Systems Technician Chris Seipel. 3 years and countless hours later, data is still being entered and updated into the GIS that supports CAD. Chris Seipel has been extremely responsive and helpful to the employees of the 911 Center, despite the juggling back and forth between the Public Safety Building and the Newcastle County Government Center. Chris has always been available to answer questions and offer suggestions, giving the best service to the 911 Center. Information Systems Technician Chris Seipel, your dedication and support in making the public safety computer-aided dispatch system as precise and accurate as it can be, you're being awarded this certificate of commendation. Telecommunicator 1, Police, Daniel M. Haffage. Okay, this is a team award. The other team member, Public Safety Operator 2, Ann Blaylaw, is not present. On December 14th, 2016, Public Safety Operator Ann Blaylaw received a call from a male victim who was actively pursuing 3 vehicles thought to have been involved in a theft of items from his vehicle. The caller provided descriptions of the vehicles as well as updating their locations. He refused to stop pursuing the vehicles even after being provided safety instructions to do so. Even though the caller was unwilling to end his chase, Public Safety Operator 2, Ann Blaylaw, was able to keep him on the phone and continue to obtain critical information for the responding units. Meanwhile, Telecommunicator 1, Police, Daniel Haffich, dispatched units to the victim's residence. He was able to accurately provide the dispatched units with the updated location information of the suspect vehicles. Additionally, he was also able to provide owner information for each suspect vehicle. It was discovered that one vehicle was reported stolen through the Wilmington Police Department. The other 2 vehicles were reported stolen after an earlier occupied burglary in the same neighborhood as the male victim. for your professionalism and in keeping with the high standards of the Emergency Communications Department, Telecommunicator 1 Police Daniel Haffinch is being awarded the Critical Incident Award. Telecommunicator 2 Police Trina L. May. On December 18th, 2016 at 17:15 hours, the 911 center received a call for a fight in progress with weapons involved within the development of Langolan. The caller provided a description of the suspect vehicle, also that the vehicle was headed at a high rate of speed towards Route 13. Telecommunicator 2 Police May had communications command of Dispatch 2 when the incident was occurring. Patrol units acting on her information from A and B squads came into a vehicle pursuit with the suspect vehicle, beginning at the intersections of routes 13 and 273, Hare's Corners. Telecommunicator 2 Police May calmly and professionally called out the pursuit status within the communications center as it continued. North on Route 13 and into the city of Wilmington, Newcastle County police units and assisting units from the Delaware State Police ended the pursuit, took the suspect into custody without further incident at the intersection of West 30th and Washington Streets. For her professionalism and in keeping with the high standards of the Emergency Communications Department, Telecommunicator 2 Police Trina May is being awarded the Critical Incident Award. Telecommunicator 1, Fire and Medical, Lisa M. McNulty. On June 14, 2016, then Public Safety Operator 2, Lisa McNulty, received a call from an extremely distraught female concerning a 2-month-old infant that was unresponsive and not breathing. This was Public Safety Operator 2, Lisa McNulty's first CPR call after only 2 weeks of being cleared to handle emergency medical dispatch. Public Safety Operator 2, Lisa McNulty, was able to effectively apply calming techniques and adhere to the EMD protocols through this most difficult call. Unfortunately, there was not a positive outcome. But recognizing that this was Public Safety Operator 2, Lisa McNulty's first CPR call, she performed in an outstanding manner. For then Public Safety Operator 2, Lisa McNulty's performance in this difficult situation, she is being awarded the 911 Professional Award. Telecommunicator 2, Fire and Medical, Stephen D. DeBold. Public Safety Operator 2, Alfred G. Russell. The Uniform Committee is comprised of a group of peers that has dedicated over a year of hard work and diligence to design a new uniform and badge for the Newcastle County Emergency Communications Division. The badge, designed by Telecommunicator 2, Teresa Duremchuk, took weeks to create and is recognized as one of a kind. It highlights the United States flag and Newcastle County seal, a true representation of Newcastle County Emergency Communications Division. Therefore, the committee is being recognized with a certificate of commendation. Excellent work done by all.
I will highlight that neither of these two are wearing that uniform, but can't make that up. But at least McNulty, who was just here, is wearing our latest uniform.
Assistant Platoon Leader, Police, Michelle Brock. Telecommunicator 2, Fire and Medical, Stephen DeVoe. Telecommunicator 2, Fire and Medical, R.T. Hopkins. Telecommunicator 1, Police, Daniel Haffich. Telecommunicator 1, Police, Eric Larson. Telecommunicator 2, Police, Trina May. Public Safety Operator 1, Diane Davis. Public Safety Operator 2, David McDonough. On the 24th of September of 2016, the 911 Center processed numerous calls related to a fatal fire that had occurred in Canby Park Estates. After a Mayday was declared, several additional resources were dispatched to the scene. For the next several hours, the entire communications staff worked relentlessly to assist units at the scene under very difficult circumstances. With an incident of this magnitude and severity, it truly takes a total team effort for the entire communications center staff for a dispatch center to be able to successfully handle such an event. This night was truly a tragedy for the Wilmington Fire Department personnel and others directly affected. It is for this reason that all personnel are being recognized for their united and collective effort that was put forth on a night that will never be forgotten.